We have a few big news days coming up. Tomorrow, 15th, is when the government we will all know, the Election Commission will announce the election dates. Then on the 18th, ladies and gentlemen, the Supreme Court hears what the State Bank of India has to say on the electoral bonds issue. And on 19th, the Supreme Court will be hearing multiple pleas seeking a stay on the implementation of the rules of the Citizenship Amendment Bill. That is on the 19th of March. Will the Supreme Court get into it? Will the Supreme Court try and take on the government on it? We'll have to see. I don't think so. Let's debate.
CAA ये देश का कानून है, पत्थर पर लकीर है, ये वास्तविकता है, ये लागू होगा ही होगा और इस चुनाव के पहले होगा।
इस चुनाव के पहले होगा। ये बहुत बड़ी बात कही है आज गृह मंत्री जी ने। बहुत बड़ी बात हम सबके सामने।
प्रणव जी, तालियां बज गई। कोई धमाका नहीं है, ये बात मैं 10 बार बता चुका हूं।
नहीं, मगर आप
चुनाव के पहले CAA लागू होगा। इस देश का कानून है, इसको कोई नहीं रोक सकता।
5 days after Centre notified the CAA, the Supreme Court has agreed to hear a clutch of petitions opposing the CAA on March 19th. An appeal was made in the top court seeking a stay on implementation of the CAA until pleas challenging validity of the new law are resolved. The IUML in its plea argues that the CAA links citizenship to religion, but Centre has rejected this claim.
CAA सिर्फ और सिर्फ 3 देश अफगानिस्तान, पाकिस्तान और बांग्लादेश से हिंदू, सिख, बौद्ध, क्रिश्चियन और पारसी जो जैन और पारसी शरणार्थी आए हैं, इनको उनका अधिकार देने का कानून है, नागरिकता देने का कानून है, जिससे इनके जीवन की वेदनाओं को हम कम कर पाए।
Can the Supreme Court intervene and stall policy decision? Let's debate.
What is my view, Pankaj? My view is that the Citizenship Amendment Bill was lawfully passed by the Lok Sabha and the Rajya Sabha and was also given the President's assent. It was introduced in the Lok Sabha 9th December 2019, passed in the Rajya Sabha 11th December 2019, mentioned by the President in the House, Hitesh Jain, on 1st February 2024. It has full parliamentary sanction. How can the judiciary, with the greatest of respect, how is it even comprehensible, Hitesh, that the judiciary will question a bill that has become an act by the President's assent and implemented by a lawfully elected parliament through the parliamentary process? This would be a breakdown of the whole system then. Hitesh, why don't you open it?
Yes. Thank you, Arnab. As far as the act is concerned, as you rightly pointed out, it has already been passed in 2019. There has been a challenge that was mounted. The petition has not been heard by the Supreme Court. So as far as the law is concerned, it was set into the motion when the Parliament had passed the act. What has happened now is just the notification of the rules. And merely because the rules are notified now, it does not give a ground for urgency to approach the court and seek a stay as to the rules have been notified now. So I find it extremely difficult, first on the ground of just going to the court and asking for the stay of the legislation. Second, as you rightly said, the Parliament has its authority to pass the law, and the authority derives from Article 11 of the Constitution. So once the Parliament has the power to legally enact the bill, then the second point that comes, that is a legal position, that the presumption of legality, and the presumption of legality is always in the favor of the statute. So all these factors are concerned. It looks difficult, but I don't want to comment as to what is going to happen in the court. but it will be very difficult.
What doesn't want to?
I mean, if somebody
What doesn't want to? But I also
Arnab,
you know, our
serious issue. Arnab, I want to put a very serious issue on your channel. Nowadays, there is a lobby to build the integrity of the Supreme Court. Whenever the Supreme Court is not firing the political agenda which they want to fire from the Supreme Court's shoulder, they do the name calling of the judges and the Chief Justice. They feel that by mounting up the pressure on the judges, they can force them
they're trying to get
judgment. So it is going to be the litmus test for the Supreme Court as to whether they are going to be browbeaten by the lobby or they are going to act in accordance with the rule of the law.
I agree with you, but
it's a litmus test for the Supreme Court, and Supreme Court should look into this, because normally rules are framed within a few months after bringing a legislation. But here you took 4 years and 3 months. The rules just 1 month before the general elections.
So Pankaj, listen. I'll tell you one thing. You people have not been able to put together a proper opposition. You're going to lose the election. Does not mean that you try to turn the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court is not here to fight your political battles. And Niladri, while delivering the verdict on Article 370 in December last year, Chief Justice said that every decision of the union government cannot be challenged. As if this becomes the trend, then there'll be a standstill on the administrative process. The country will come to a standstill. The Supreme Court cannot and should not interfere in matters of governance, Niladri.
But when
governance is for the government.
See, government's profane intentions are so clear that it is impossible for the ruling dispensation to hide behind any argument.
The Supreme Court cannot play the role of a political party.
Polarization and the polarization at the time. Polarization at the time of elections is the only purpose.
No, I think you're overdoing it, and this is going to lead to a huge argument. I mean, every decision, as the Supreme Court said, taken on by the union on behalf of the state,
is a very major
is not
decision.
open to challenge.
It's not one of those every
decisions. So of course, what do you want the government to do? To take minor decisions only?
It's a very major decision.
Is there a bar on the government to take the decision till the elections are notified? That means before 1 month the government has to come
but how can you
no governance in the country?
But how can you frame the rules after 4 years and 3 months?
And we have decided.
You want the courts to run the country. You want the courts to run the country. Because the opposition is
that CAA stipulates religion as a basis for giving citizenship.
Can I make a point, please?
Is it not a major decision? If so, how can it be?
I want to remind you. I want to get Niladri and RP. Very important observation had been made here by Supreme Court Judge, then Justice Hemant Gupta. He said on this matter, RP, just a minute, the courts can declare and interpret law, remove lacuna, fill up the gaps, but the courts, Supreme Court Judge Hemant Gupta said, the courts cannot entrench upon the field of legislation. You think Justice Chandrachud will forget these words of Justice Hemant Gupta?
But
the courts cannot.
But
let me get in Niladri. I don't think he can hear me, so I'll go to RP.
Arnab, what will court decide? Whether Muslims are minority in Bangladesh, Pakistan and Afghanistan? Is this a court going to decide? Because the complete point is that they are saying that you're not including Muslims. We being a secular nation, we should have added Muslims who want to come and take citizenship from Bangladesh, Pakistan, Afghanistan. So now court will decide whether they are minority in those countries or not. I mean, this is the only issue.
No, the issue is that when you make a law,
I don't understand. I can't comprehend. How will court decide on something related to Pakistan, Afghanistan and Bangladesh?
Majority with votes in mind, it is thoroughly an unholy practice.
Niladri, can you hear me? Because if he's there, Niladri,
what do you mean by arbitrarily misusing the majority? I mean, we have been given right by the countrymen. Citizen of the country.
But the point is, the court is going to decide whether the law is constitutional or not. Now, that is within the purview of the court. But having said so,
on what ground?
It seems that the CAA has created havoc in the state of Assam. because at the end
Is
of
that
the
the
day,
ground, Niladri, for
when
setting
the
aside the
NRC was
statute?
done,
Where if the
it was
law has created
Hindus
a
who
havoc
were,
on the ground, is that a ground to set
excluded from
aside
the
a law?
NRC. What the CA has done is to shift the
CA,
timeline from
Niladri,
1971
if a law has created a havoc on the ground, that is not the ground to
which
set aside
violates
the
the
law.
Assam Accord. And we must also take it into view that this NRC was passed from the Supreme Court itself only, which necessitated the CA in the current
Niladri,
fashion.
we are dealing with the issue of CAA and the rules. Please respond to that. We are referring to CAA and its rule. So confine your challenge there. That is the only issue before the court. And the act that has been passed in 2019, what is the propriety of seeking a stay after 5 years when the bill was passed?
Because the rules were framed after 4
See,
years.
the Constitution,
Even if the rules are framed after 4 years, that is not the ground of the stay. Give me one
If
period
a
challenge of the law made by the parliament.
law is in
India has
law is not in tune with the fundamental
law made by the
of our
parliament is ultra-violent to the Constitution.
Only Niladri and
The court
Nitish.
can go ahead and strike it down.
Niladri. Article 11 of the
Yes,
Indian
Arnab.
Constitution
Yes, Arnab.
also gives Parliament the right to regulate the right of citizenship by law. Part 2, Article 11.
Absolutely.
Also, Citizenship Act 1955 entitles the Ministry of Home Affairs to grant or withhold citizenship to any individual. These are matters which are very much put out there. Do you think the courts will say today that we should not care for the rights of the government, for the responsibilities of the elected government? We should decide everything. You expect Parliament or the government to report to the Supreme Court? Everything cannot be got into in the guise of interpretation. Under the guise of interpretation, you can't take over the rights of the government and destroy the fundamental structure of the governance in this country.
Completely.
This will be a matter of great overreach in my view. Very big overreach.
The Parliament in all its wisdom has made a law. But the Constitution as it is today provides that the law has to be in consonance with the principles of the Constitution. If it is not, it is within the purview. The power of judicial review is still there in our Constitution. That cannot be taken away. Either
you are saying the government will take what you are saying is
and put it in that format.
Under the guise of interpretation, the Supreme Court cannot take away from an elected government the right to legislate. This will be the biggest example of judicial overreach if it happens in my view.
Arnab, there are two paths.
No, if it happens, I agree with you, Arnab, because see, the court cannot take away. Judicial activism cannot be tolerated in this country. But the power of judicial review also has to be given to the court. I'm not saying that there should be judicial activism, but judicial review of any law made by the parliament.
No, these are issues about the separation of powers.
Is not desirable, but judicial review is absolutely desirable, and there has to be checks and balances. That is
but I find it quite hypocritical that the separation of powers get blurred when the same Supreme Court opposes the NJSC model and backs the appointment by president and a collegium, is now ordering for the judicial head to be involved in political situation, in a political function. You have to decide. You have to realize out here there are larger issues on infringing on the separation of powers, which we are now bringing into discussion out here. This will be a case of overreach vis-a-vis the doctrine. You have to understand that every government action cannot be subject to judicial decision making. Some people, in my view, Hitesh, are trying to tempt the judiciary into the executive's domain. And the Supreme Court understood that.
Deliberately, they have failed the battle in the people's court. They want to use the shoulder of the judiciary to fire their political agenda. And this is a very dangerous trend. If the Supreme Court is going to be used for its political purpose and for furthering the political agenda, it will reflect very badly on the democratic institution.
It will be very dangerous.
No, Hitesh,
it will be very dangerous. An attempt is being given to do that.
If it happens, it is very dangerous.
And not only that, they browbeat the judge, they do the name calling, every sort of tactics is being said. Editorials are written in the newspaper to browbeat the judiciary. Moment they give a judgment in favor of the government, they will start name calling. At the day they give one judgment, suddenly the judiciary becomes independent. Do you think the judiciary is not watching this? And it is their reputation also which is at stake.
Criticize the judgment. I may not agree to the judgment, but I cannot criticize the judge.
No,
Well, who's been criticizing the judge?
What has happened
Article
is in Assam
370, we saw what happened. Ram Mandir, we saw what happened.
From
When just
1971
in the Loya
2014.
case, we know what happened.
You are trying to
legislation.
I think the court will have to be very intelligent about it
And the lobby, we have seen
and
that.
wise about it. The court should realize, and I'm sure the court realizes, the honorable judges realize, that the opposition has been an absolute failure. There is an attempt to shoot over the judiciary's shoulder.
Oh, this is not about the failure of opposition. This is about something is against the very
and that's
essence
why
of
the
Indian
court said
Constitution.
the answer to these things lie in the political space and not. Stop politicizing the court, Pankaj Sharma, on everything.
But
the court is not a political party.
If something is against the very essence of Indian Constitution, what should the highest court do? What should the highest court do? It has a right to
not allow its shoulder
has a right
for
to
firing
intervene.
of any political agenda. It should act in accordance with the rule of law. Pankaj, it is very simple. The Supreme Court is required to act in accordance with the rule of the law.
The rule of the law says
objective
rule of the law says
that if the parliament has
something
power
is
to make the law,
something is not in tune with the spirit of our Constitution, Supreme Court must intervene.
There is no case made out for staying any legislation or rules.
No, the question is whether the stay will be granted or not is a question with the all wisdom of the court. It is on the wisdom of the court.
I don't think there's any chance.
Take away the
there is no chance of a stay being granted. RP, what do you think?
Discussing hypothetically, it may happen.
You're trying your luck.
See, no, the luck is not going to help them because court can't get into this. Court can't be part of the political football here. I mean, the opposition is trying to play football with CAA and trying to ignite fire, and court can't. I seriously doubt that court would be part of that football here, being played by the opposition. And the court can't be part of the game which opposition is playing to ignite fire on the name of CAA as they did earlier.
It won't happen.
I very heavily last time also on what was being done earlier on the name of CAA.
You have committed a moral, sinful and heinous anti-democracy act and you want Supreme Court to keep quiet?
What is anti-democracy, sir? The court will decide or you will decide who's minority in Afghanistan, Pakistan,
I tell you,
Muslims minority in Bangladesh, Muslims minority in Pakistan, Muslims minority in Afghanistan.
Knows what the Indian government has
Will court
done.
decide
You are
trying
trying to push the court. You're trying to push the court to take the kind of line that the US State Department has done. You expect the Supreme Court of India to understand what the government of India is trying to do or understand what the US State Department is about to do. And you are taking the US State Department's line. You want infringement on our government, domestic and foreign policy functions. This is crossing every line. I don't think the Supreme Court will cross the line. I thank you all for watching tonight. Tomorrow I'll be live. Tomorrow I'll be live. I'll be live as the election dates are announced. The biggest celebration, the biggest democratic celebration in the country starts tomorrow, 3 o'clock, towards the general elections of India. The elections are on. See you tomorrow. Goodbye.